إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى أهله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We give praise and thanks to Almighty Allah. We ask His showers blessing upon the noblest of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, members of his household, his companions, and all those who have stood, are standing, and will come to stand on this path of Sirat al-Mustaqim to the day of Qiyamah. Alhamdulillah, we have not ceased to be treating the book Az-zakaat fi-l-Islaam, Fi-Dh-Dhawi-l-Kitaab was-Sunnah, Zakat in Islam under the light of the Kitab, Al-Qur'an and the Sunnah, the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, written by the popular author of the book Hisnu-l-Muslim, the book of Az-zakaat, Hisnu-l-Muslim, Sheikh Sa'id ibn Wahb Al-Qahtaaniy. Alhamdulillah. Before we do a roundup of what we treated last class, I would like to do a quick revision of the number of things, that we pay in zakah out of the zakah of bahimatul an'am, the zakah of animals. So we go to camels for starters. If you have less than 5 camels, there's nothing to pay. But once your camels reach a number of 5, then you have 1 sheep to pay. Between 5 and 9. Between 10 and 14, you add 1 more sheep. So that is 2 sheep to pay. Between 15 and 19, you pay 3 sheep in total. 20 and 24, you add 1 more sheep. So that means between ownership of 5 camels to 24 camels, out of every 5 band, starting from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that is 5. You add 1 sheep. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, another 5. You add 1 sheep until you get to 24. And this is the only time in Bahimatul An'am, in fact, in the entirety of zakah, where you by default pay with other than the type of class of wealth that you are paying zakat on. If you're paying zakat in gold, you pay in gold by default. If you're paying in silver, you pay in silver by default. If you're paying in urud tijara, you pay in urud tijara by default. However, the scholars allow that since gold, silver, and urud tijara and money, fiat money, are one and the same, that one dovetails into the other, then you can pay with fiat money at the value of gold that you will have paid as zakah. Likewise for silver, and in the case, and likewise for urud tijara, especially and specifically when that urud tijara is something that the recipients of zakah will not be able to benefit from. So the same applies to other wealth, like benefit from, in like you're selling nails, or you're selling cement, or you're selling blocks of building blocks and things like this. The poor will not eat that; they will not benefit from that. So the same applies to other classes of wealth. You pay in zakah from that wealth, because Allah says, "Khudh min amwalikum," take from their wealth, sadaqah, zakah. However, in zakat of camels, there is a change in the default. From 5 to 24, you pay in other than camels, you pay in sheep. Once you get to 25, then you start paying in camels. So 25 to 35 is the band for paying bint al-makhab. Then you go to 36 to 45. When you get here, you start adding 15 to the last number. So from 45, you add 15 to that, you get 60. You add 15 to that, you get 75. You add 15 to that, you get 90. So obviously, the first number becomes apparent. Once this is 45, it's 46 that will start the next band. So 46 to 60. 61 will start the next band. 61 to 75. 76 will start the next band. 76 to 90. Once you get that, the next is 91 to 120. So once you get to 91 to 120, then the adding of 15 stops. So 120, what you now start after 120 is you keep everything within the same tens. So this is 121. 21 and 29 are within the same 10. So 121 to 129. So once you know this is 129, the next is 130. The next, so the band will be in the same tens. 130 to, from the beginning of that tens to the last number of that tens, 39. So 130 to 139. So that is what we went through with respect to camels. In cows, it's even more, straightforward. You will pay in cows. If you have less than 30 cows, there's nothing to pay. Once you reach 30, then 30 to 39 cows, you pay one tabi'ah or one tabi'ah. That is a tabi' is what has completed 1 year and entered into its second year of life. Then the next band is 40 to 59. So you see that this second band, when you're paying zakat, you start paying from 30, is the 50 is subsumed into it. So instead of saying 40 to 49, you're going from 40 through 50 to 59. So this is the only time you do that. Then you pay one musinna, completed its second year, and is now in its third year of life. Then after that, you just go 60 is the next one, 70 is the next band, 80 is the next band, 90 is the next band, 100. You just keep adding 10 on down on. For sheep, it is 1 to 39. If you have 1 to 39, there's nothing to pay in sheep. The first time you're going to pay for sheep that you own is when they reach the number 40. 40 to 120, you pay only one sheep. After that, 121 to 200, you pay another sheep. So it becomes 2 sheep that you pay. 200, again, just like you had in cattle, where 50 was subsumed from 40, instead of ending at 49, you went to 59. Over here too, you go from 200 through 300 to 399. And when the next band is now 400, once you get to this 400, it's just you add 100, 100, 100 onwards. So 400 to 449, 499, sorry, 400 to 499, 500 to 599, onwards like that. You keep adding 100 to the first figure in the band. So the next one will be 600 to 699 like that. And for each 100, starting from 400, you add 1 sheep. So this is just a refresher of what we got. Well, from that, I'll go to a question that one of our good brothers asked, that why are we, going through these in zakat, especially when many of us are not into the trade of keeping animals, rearing animals, animal husbandry, in short. Why then do we go through these details? We go through these details for many things. Number one, as we go through it, we are engaging in ibadah. We are learning the deen. This is ibadah. The angels are continually searching for gatherings of knowledge and seeking forgiveness for the people therein. So that is one. Two, it is a method of preserving the deen. The Prophet ﷺ said to us that this deen would not be taken, by the book the Quran being taken away physically like that, or that, but rather by the scholars going away with the wealth of knowledge that they've acquired. And not only with the knowledge that they've acquired, but the experience of utilizing that knowledge. And with the knowledge and experience that they have, the ability that they've gained to apply that to new things that come. These three things go away with the scholars when they go. So if there's no one to take what the knowledge the scholars have with them, take it from them and broadcast it, then we'll be contributing to the loss of the deen. Imagine if there are people, for instance, 100 students who took 1% of the knowledge of Sheikh al-Albani, of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, of Sheikh Ibn Baz, or any of these ai-ima of the deen of the recent time or before them. You have 100, each person taking 1%. Then that knowledge would not have died. Of course, we will lose some of the experience and the application of both the knowledge and the experience, but that knowledge in and of itself, and some of that experience and some of that application that was witnessed by those students in the presence of those shuyukh will be retained, and each one of them will spread again. Other people, the 1% he has of the knowledge, because as a student or knowledge, you add something from here, from there to it, it'll become more than that. Then from him also, other people will, learn. Each person taking, even if it's 1% from him. And third reason is that we learn in Islam before acting. We don't wait till we need that knowledge before we start asking. You see people go for Umrah. You see people go for Hajj. While there, they now begin to ask, what do we do? What do you do while there? Sometimes even after having done the deed wrongly, they now ask, did I do it right? And things like this. Rather, what we were taught is that the companion of the Prophet ﷺ used to teach their children how to fast, encourage them to fast. And, before the age of bulugh, before they become morally responsible. And they'll gather them into a place to distract them, give them occupation, games to be engaged in. And if any one of them couldn't bear it anymore, they will remove that one from the circle, feed him, and he won't return back to that circle. Allah says about the salah that you should command your kids. The Prophet ﷺ said about the salah, command your kids to pray at the age of 7. And if they reach the age of 10 and they don't, then beat them for it. Many children by the age of 10 have not reached the age of bulugh. They have not become mukallafun. Yet, because of the importance of salah, once they attain the stage of being mukallafun, people are morally obligated to obey Allah, then Allah trains them, commands that they be trained through the tongue of his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the last one I'll add, but not the least, and not the end, is that we learn things to benefit others too. Many of us are men who have wives at home. We learn about issues of menstruating even though we do not menstruate. We have daughters that we teach to. It will be more comfortable for us to teach it to our wives and daughters, than for strange men to be, educating them about that. So these are some of the many benefits with learning these things that we ourselves may not even, practice ourselves. Barakallahu feekum. Now, so last class, the last thing we talked about, or the Sheikh Rahimullah was talking about things after talking about the zakat we pay on camels, on cows, and sheep that are reared by their owners in a fashion that they are free range. They eat out of what Allah has provided. And they reach this nisab that we've talked about. They are held for productive means. They've reached one haul, one calendar year, and all that. He now began to expose us to certain things that are peculiar to zakah on free-range, non-working animals. The last one that we took was the la zakah fi ghayri bahimatil an'am min al-hayawan, that there is no zakah on other than these three categories that we talked about: camel family, cattle family, and sheep. And sheep, talk about goats, ewes, ram, and all that. In that family, you have those that grow hair and you have those that grow wool. They're all referred to as shah. And the camel family will also include things like ilama and things like this that are cameloids. They're all in the camel family. The cattle family will include oxen, buffaloes, whether land buffaloes or water buffaloes, and things like this. They're all in the cattle family. So these are the items of wealth that zakat is upon. Anything other than them, no matter how pricey, whether horses are one of the most expensive animals that you have today, even more expensive than some cars, many cars. Despite that, Allah overlooked for us. And despite that, many people do not pay zakah on the things that they're supposed to pay zakah on, even though these things are very few. So inshallah, today we'll continue with the 7th point that a great scholar exposed to us. The 7th, he said, La yujzi'u fi sadaqati al-ghanami illa al-jadha'a min al-dha'n alladhi kammala aw kammula 6 ashhur wa athani min al-ma'z alladhi kammala الذي كمل سنة وتقدم أنه لا يجزئ في ذلك إلا الأنثى إلا ما استثني. Now, the Sheikh said, لا يجزئ في صدقة الغنم. It is not acceptable, it is not rewardable in the zakah of free-range non-working animals that one should give anything illa jadha'a min ad-dha'n, that one should give in the zakat of sheep, that one should give anything other than al-jadha'a min ad-dha'n. Jadha'a is a type of sheep based on age. It says alladhi kammala 6 ashhur. Said a jadha'a is one that has reached 6 months or above. Once it has reached 6 months, it's called jadha'a. Now, there's different opinion amongst the scholars about this. Some say a jadha'a is one that has reached 6 months. One say jadha'a is one that has reached 1 year. So the Sheikh Rahimullah, Sheikh Sa'id ibn Wahb al-Qahtaaniy chose 6 months. We'll go to why this difference of opinion is. It says, وَالثَّنِي مِنَ الْمَعْزِ الَّذِي كَمَّلَ sanatan. And also among goats, the ones that grow hair, you know what goats are, then what is acceptable to pay as zakah is one that has attained 1 year. So for sheep that grow wool, 6 months. For goats, 1 year. So those are the types of animal that you can pay as zakah. We'll go to the difference. Also on ma'az, also goats, the zero opinion is that they all agree that you have to pay dha'n and sheep. They all agree that you have to pay الثري in goats. However, what does that mean is where they differ, because the Arabic language says different things about it. So those who hold this say 6 months. Those who hold that meaning say 1 year with regards to Ad-Da'an. And also in the case of Thaniya, they also have different numbers. Some say it is 2 years from Thani, while some say it is 1 year from Thaniya. And that is the time the incisors are also called Thani. So say that is the time when the incisors are lost. We'll go to that shortly, inshallah. وتقدم أنه لا يجزئ في ذلك إلا الأنثى. The Sheikh rahimahullah says in the إلا ما استثني. He says in the sadaqah, in the zakah of animals, specifically now talking about ghanam, the sheep, that what you're to pay in zakah must be female. And also in animals generally that we are paying zakat on, it should be females, except that which has been exempted, and we talked about earlier. Also, there's difference of opinion amongst this. Allahu a'lam. With regards to camels, this statement holds, which is when your camels reach 25, from 25 to 35, you're to pay bint al-makhab. That is the first band that you are going to pay zakat on. So you in camels. Before that, 5 to 24, you pay in sheep. So when you're paying bint al-makhab, it's bintu al-makhab. That is a female camel. The next band, you pay bintu labun. The next, also a female. The next band, hiqqa turuqat al-jamal, also a female camel. The next band, jada', ends with ta marbuta, also a female camel. So by default in camels, from 25 downwards to whatever number, you pay in female camels. The exemptions, one of the exemptions is if you have to pay bint al-makhab, the first band of paying in camels, and you don't have bint al-makhab, then the Sharia permits you to pay ibn labun, which is one that is a male camel that is 1 year older, because their value is the same. You're allowed in that instance. Another instance is if your camel stock is all males, then Allah says, "Khudh min amwalihim sadaqah." So you pay from your wealth. It's what you have. La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. So that is clear for camels. This statement that they should be female holds. However, when we go to cows, it doesn't hold throughout. In cows, when you are paying in your first band 30, you are to pay tabi'ah or tabi'ah. Tabi'ah is a male cow that has completed its first year and is in the second year now. Tabi'ah is the same, but a female. The next band, you are to pay a thaniya, a musanna. You have to pay a musanna, completed its second year, and it is what? Now in its third year, and it is a female. So out of every 30, you pay a musanna, and out of every 40, out of every 30, you pay tabi'a or tabi'a, and out of every 40, you pay a musanna. So out of every 30, you have a choice, male or female. Out of every 40, you have you are restricted to the female only. So that's why this statement, but if you add this, it says illa ma ustuthniya, except what is exempted. So in that case, it's talking about these exemptions. When we get to goats and sheep, then we are to pay in either male or female, because in the Arabic language, male and female are referred to as sheep, sha. And in the hadith, the hadith that talk about this, whether that of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he sent Anas bin Malik to Bahrain and gave him that letter on what the zakah should be. In the case of camel, there was differentiation of sexes. In the case of cattle, likewise. But in the case of ghanam, sheep and goats, he did not differentiate the sexes. Just a shah. And shah applies equally to males and females. But remember what the Prophet ﷺ said to those who complained about their collectors. He said, Ardu musaddiqikum. Please your zakat collectors. Because there are these differences. So you go with the position of the zakat authority. So for instance, they say they want to collect da'an from you. Your understanding is that da'an should be 6 months old. But they say in our own understanding, it is a 1-year-old sheep that we're going to collect from you. So ardu musadiqikum, comply with your musadiq, the zakat collector. Now, so let's look at something on that from another source. Now, so here it says فرع أول الثاني يجزئ الثاني من الضأن والمعز وهذا باتفاق المذاهب الفقهية الأربعة. You know, the Sheikh rahimahullah said الضأن is that which is permissible in sheep, and ثانية is that which is permissible in sheep. Here it is said that the dhan and that a thaniya is older than dhan. Among sheep, the one that is in the Sheikh's understanding, or the position that the Sheikh rahimahullah Sheikh Sa'd bin Wahb Al-Qahtaaniy chose is that the dhan is 6 months, one that completed 6 months in sheep, and the thaniya in sheep is that which has completed 1 year. So thaniya in Ma'az is that which has completed 1 year. Now, so it said yuzi'u athani. So if you give something that is older than what Sheikh Sa'id ibn Wahb al-Qahtaani says, it is still acceptable. Like the case of the man who brought a camel that was older than Ibn Makhab to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, didn't want to take it, but he insisted, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took it and prayed for him. So he said the 4 popular schools of thoughts of fiqh, Maliki, Shafi'i, Abu Hanifa, Al-Hanafi, that they Abu Hanifa and Ahmad bin Hanbal, that these schools of these scholars, they are of the opinion that they agree that al-Da'an al-Ma'az are rewardable with respect to this, with respect to paying zakah on goats and sheep. وَحُكِيَ عَدَمُ الْإِخْتِلَافِ فِي الثَّنِي مِنَ الْمَعَزِ. Say with regards to thani min al-ma'az, there is no difference of opinion. Now, they brought Athar عن سفيان ibn Abdullah al-Thaqafi رضي الله عنه أن عمر ibn Khattab رضي الله عنه بعثه مصدقا. Said the companion رضي الله عنه, Sufyan ibn Abdullah al-Thaqafi, he said Umar ibn Khattab رضي الله عنه, during his khilafah, sent him as a zakat collector. وَكَانَ يَعُدُّ عَلَيْهِمْ سَخْلًا. And when he gets to the people who have sheep, he will count the newly born sheep, called a sakhal, plural sakhal, amongst the sheep, but he will not collect it from them. So the people complained. They said, فَقَالُوا تَعُدُّ عَلَيْنَا السَّخَلْ وَلَا تَأْخُذْهَا وَلَا تَأْخُذْ مِنْهَا شَيْئًا. You will count the sakhal amongst the wealth that we have of sheep. But when it comes to extracting from that wealth, zakah, you won't take sakhla as part of the thing. You say it's too young. فَلَمَّا قَدِمَ عَلَى عُمَرَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ ذَكَرَ ذَلِكَ لَهُ. When he came back to Umar, he mentioned what happened to him. فَقَالَ عُمَرَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. Umar رضي الله عنه said, نعم, yes, what you did is right. نَعُدُّ عَلَيْهِمْ السَّخْلَ يَحْمِلُهَا الرَّاعِ. We will count the newly born sheep that the shepherd is still carrying in his arms. We'll count it amongst them. It's just newly delivered. We'll count it. وَلَا نَأْخُذْهَا. But we will not take it as zakah. وَلَا نَأْخُذْ al-akula. We will also not take the sakla is like the low end. It's just born. So we won't take that. Just like we also take the one that is or a premium out of their property, we'll take in the middle. So the akula is that which was raised to fatten it for its meats. So we won't take out of that. We'll take from the middle of the stock. Wala rubba. Also a nursing animal, we won't take that. Wala al-makhid. And also the one who is pregnant will also not take that. These are choice part of the person's wealth. So listed, we've taken this hadith before. So these that now. فَرْجَذَا مِنَ الضَّانِ يُجْزِئُ وَجَذَا مِنَ الضَّانِ وَهُوَ مَذْهَبُ الْجُمْهُرِ. An Sufyan, the same hadith here. It's the ikhtilaf among the scholars that I'm trying to bring out here. I thought it was here with respects to jada'a in age. Anna jada'a min ad-dan yulqih. Now, jada'a has two meanings. It has a meaning equal to thani. Jada'a could mean a stump. When you lose your primary teeth, the secondary teeth come out under it, and there's like a stump under it, and the gum just rising. So a stump is referred to that, like Allah says in the Quran, فَأَجَاءَهَا الْمَخَاضُ إِلَى جِذْعٍ نَخْلَةٍ, talking about Maryam, the mother of Isa alayhi salam, that when she was pregnant, the pangs of labor took her to the stump of a palm tree. So this is one meaning. Jada'a also means an animal that has attained the ability to make another animal pregnant. It has attained puberty. So this is where the conflict in meaning comes in. So some say that it is that which can impregnate. So they will take one that has reached the age of 1 year for that. While others say no, it is when it has lost its front teeth, its incisors. That is when it is referred to as jada, and that is about 6 months. But even these, it varies from species to species. Even within the same species, it varies from animal to animal. So that's why both the zakat collector and the zakat giver should be aware of these differences. And the zakat giver should sway in the favor of the zakat institution, the zakat collectors. So this is what they say. فَأَنَّ الْجَذَعَ مِنَ الضَّانِ يُلَقِّحْ is the one that, according to this interpretation, is the one that is able to make an animal pregnant. فَأَجْزَأَ ذَلِكَ. This is permissible, accepted as zakah. بِخِلَافِ الْجَذَعَ مِنَ الْمَعْزِ. If it is جَذَعَ مِنَ الْمَعْزِ فَإِنَّهُ لَا يُلَقِّحْ. It does not make, it's not yet, it hasn't attained puberty. can't make another, goat pregnant. Illa idha kana thaniyan, until it becomes thaniyan. This is when it's able to procreate. So that's why they say thaniya for goats, and da'an, they say it is for sheep. What's age is where the difference is based on what we talked about. Some look at it from the angle of when the teeth fall off. You can call it jada'a based on its teeth falling off. You can call it thaniya based on its front teeth, the incisors, thaniya, falling off. And you can also call it jada'a because it's not able to procreate. So which of the which is where the difference is. But as I said, you go in the direction of the zakat institution. In this case where you are the one giving it, where there's no zakat institution, Allahu A'lam, then that it might be better for you to err on the side of caution by giving out the older animal. But if you give the young, so long as it's within this ikhtilaf, then that is also acceptable. Once it's not less than 6 months for the sheep, and once it's not less than 1 year for the goat. And Allahu A'lam. The Sheikh rahimahullah continues with the 8th point. He says, Shartul mukhraj fi zakah min bahimat al-an'am. Says there are conditions to be met when you are extracted animals to be paid as part of as zakah from your stock of animals. Yushtarat fi dhalika shurut minha. So there are a couple of conditions, and one of them is shartul awwal, the first, the sin, the age. وقد سبق بيان ذلك الواجب في الإبل والبقر والغنم. So we talked about this in the classification of the camels, the cattle, and the sheep. Shartu, so that's one. The second is al-unutha, being female. We talked about that also. In camels is by default. In cattle, every 30, male or female, every 40, female. In goats, male or female, it doesn't matter. But where there's a zakat institution you're paying to favors one position, then you go with that. Shartu thalith, alla yakun mu'aybatan. Ayban yamna'u min ijzafi dhahiyya illa idha kana jamil mu'ayban. Says that what you are to give in zakah must not be an animal that is defective, and that defect will disqualify it from being permissible to be slaughtered in udhiyya, as a sacrificial animal. Illa idha kana jami' mu'ayban, except if the entire livestock are like that. Khudh min amwalihim sadaqa, take from their wealth, and this is what he has as well. So that is what we'll take. If all of them are very lean animals or have one defect or the other, of course, once it's not a disease that is transmittable or anything like that. الشرط الرابع أن تكون وسطا, that it should be in the mid quality of the stock, not the high end of the stock, not the low end of the stock. Rather, it should be from the middle. So these are with conditions that you look for when paying zakah, when extracting zakah from the stock of animal that one owns. As one of the scholars say, when the musaddiq gets there, he should divide the stock into 3 groups: those that are in the high end, and those that are in the low end, and those that are in the middle. It's from that middle stock that he should extract. You count all of them as a whole, divide them into those 3 groups, and take from the middle stock. The 9th point the Sheikh rahimahullah says we should look at is either malaka muslim aqal min nisab min al-ibl, aw aqal min nisab min al-baqar, aw aqal min nisab min al-ghanam, wa kanat lil tijara fa innahu yudam ba'daha ila ba'd. If a Muslim owns a stock of camel, sheep, or a camel, cattle, or sheep that are below the nisab. The nisab for camels is 5. If anything below that if he has it, the nisab for cattle is 30. Anything below that, if he has it, the nisab for sheep is 40. Anything below that, if he has it, then he is to pay. If those things are for tijara, then he will pay zakat of urud tijara on them. They are no longer counted as sa'ima. As free range, non-working animals. They are now counted as trade goods. So you will pay zakat of trade goods on them, even though they are below the nisab of bahimatul an'am, so long as they have attained the nisab of urud tijara. And the nisab of urud tijara is either the nisab of gold, 85 grams, most popularly quoted, or 595 grams of silver, most popularly quoted. The differences in these two, also the gold and silver in grammage. In the original, just like we said in Jada'a and Faniya, there's no dispute about those names. With respect to grammage of gold and silver, these are new things. In the hadith, there's no gram mentioned in the hadith. Rather, it's dinar for gold, and for silver, it is awaq or dirham for silver. So these are the things that I mentioned. So these new scales are approximations of those. These new scales are approximation of those. Now, in approximating it, there will be error. When you change it from one metric value to another metric value, there will be errors. So some will choose this, some will choose that. So what is best is that when one can get the original scale, then that is what one should use. If you can, then la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah will not burden us beyond what we can bear. Now, either malaka Muslim. So if a Muslim owns these animals that are zakatable under zakat of bahimatul an'am, as-sa'ima, but he is not rearing them, as just rearing them, owning them, and they are free ranging, but he is selling them, he is rearing them for sales. Then in this case, he is going to pay zakat on them as zakat of the zakat or the tijara. And because if I won't say that they are less than nisab, no, the nisab in this case is the nisab of gold or silver, not the nisab of bahimatul an'am. So he will join them together. He will join camels and goats and cattle and other things that he's selling in his shop. That under urud tijara, he will join them together. Ordinarily, you can't join camels and goats and cattle together to reach the nisab. No, their nisab are different, and they're different types of wealth. Just like you also cannot join gold and silver together to reach the nisab. The nisab for gold is different from the nisab of silver. But urud tijara, anything can be urud tijara, can be a trade good. Anything can be a trade good. So once it's a trade good, then they come into one single class, and they're all the same. So you join them together. You can join the cattle to the camels, to the goats, to the to whatever it is that you're selling. To reach, once they reach the nisab of either gold or silver, then you pay zakat on them. Wa-s-Sunnah zakata naqdayn, and you pay zakat of them as a zakat of either gold or silver. There's a currencies, two currencies, naqdayn, that is gold or silver. Amma fi ghayri urud tijara fala yudamu ba'duha ila ba'd. Anything other than urud tijara, you don't mix them up. Gold is gold. If it's below the nisab, you don't add silver or titanium or anything to it. The same for all other types, apart from urud tijara, all types of wealth, apart from urud tijara. Number 10, the Sheikh Wahb says, as-sawab adamu jawaz al-udul an miqdar al-muqaddara min al-nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fi bahimat al-an'am fi zakah ila al-qima. إلا جبرانات المقدرة كما في زكاة الإبل. Says, just like we always hear this topic to the time of Zakat al-Fitr, where people will ask, can I pay in money? There was money during the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He prescribed that money should be used for certain things, like paying blood money, for instance, like the one who, meets with his wife before she becomes clean from her menstrual period. That in cases of sadaqah and things like this, money can be used, no problem. But in the case of Zakat al-Fitr, he said 4 mud, 1 sa' for each person that fasts from the staples. So this is what we should go with. This is what we must go with. Allah sent him with what we are to do, and he delivered the message. So we are not to go and say and choose something other than what the Prophet ﷺ said, and say, some scholars hold. If a scholar has the ability to do ijtihad, and he utilizes that ijtihad to reach a position, and he's wrong, he will get 1 reward for trying. If you follow blindly that, scholars are doing, one scholar holds this opinion, and you follow it blindly without looking at the evidences and how we are to, proceed as Muslims, then you don't have the cover that he has. You don't have the excuse that he has. So this is also the case in Zakah. We are not, some will say we can pay in monetary value for everything. No, if you can pay monetary value for gold, silver, and urud tijara, as we said, because they are one and the same. Urud tijara, at some point in time, was used as, wealth. People would do trade by barter before fiat money, came. When you sell gold, it is to get money. When you sell silver, it is to get money. And you spend money in order to buy these things, or gold. So they are one and the same, just like a cycle like that. That's why the scholars, permit that. But outside of that, then you are not to give money as zakat, except in the cases where the Prophet ﷺ permitted. And that is why the Sheikh said, Illa al-Jibranat, in the case of Jibran, where, for instance, you are to give Bintul Labun as zakah in the second band, but you don't have in the second band of pain and camels, but you don't have Bintul Labun. You have a younger one, Bintul al-Makhad. So you give that to the zakat institution, and you add 20 dirhams or 2 sheep to that. The reverse will happen if you don't have Bintul Labun, but you have Hiqqa. Then the zakat institution will reimburse you, because what you're giving is of a year higher in age than what you're supposed to give. So this is what you call Jibran. We treated it. So apart from this, where money is involved in Jibran, there's no other instance. Otherwise, if we were to do that, then there'll be no meaning to all what the Prophet ﷺ said. Pay bint al-makhad, pay this. He will have just said money, pay, X dirhams, pay X dinars. So the deen is following. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ خُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. And the Prophet is the best of examples for those who seek Allah and the day and the hereafter. Now, كما في زكاة الإبل لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم هو الذي قدرها من بهيمة الأنعام كما تقدم. So we have to follow the things that the Prophet ﷺ said, because the Prophet ﷺ was the one who instituted these measures. In this type, you pay this. In this type, you pay this. وَكَذَلِكَ زَكَاةُ الْفِطْرِ. So the same thing applies for zakat al-fitr. You pay in staples that the people eat. You don't pay in money. You can give somebody money to go and buy. Of course, if you're not going to pay in staples, doesn't mean that you have to farm the staples. You're going to buy, so buy it. Some will say, when you give to people, they'll go and give it to others, to the shop owners, and collect money from that. What they do with it is not upon you. Allah has not said to the recipients of zakat al-fitr that when you are given, you must eat it. When you're given, you must not go and exchange it for money. No, it's their property. They do with it whatever they want. So you are the ones who do what Allah has asked you to do, what the Prophet ﷺ has commanded you to do. فَلَا يَجُوزُ إِخْرَاجُ الْقِيمَةِ عَنِ الْعَيْنِ مُقَدَّرَةً فِي الزَّكَاةِ عَلَى الصَّحِيحِ. So paying in money, rather, in the cases where you can't pay in money, in zakat al-fitr, and zakat of wealth, is not acceptable. So according to the most authentic of the position of the scholars. Min aqwali ahli al-ilm. Wallahu a'lam. Number 11, the Sheikh rahimahullah says, تؤخذ الزكاة على المياه والموارد في-l-Dawr wa-fi-l-Dawr. He said the zakah is to be taken على المياه, at the water places. This is because the Arabs traditionally, they will have their livestock in their compounds or wherever, in their pens, and the camels will drink like every 3 or so days. So on those days that the camels will drink, they'll take the camels to the river or whatever water body is around them. So the owners of this livestock will gather at that point in time. So what the zakat collectors are to do is to go to this place, their water bodies, where the people will gather. So it will not be an added burden to the zakat institution and the zakat givers. The zakat collectors will meet a host of zakat givers at that single location. So you won't need to go to A, B, and C in order to collect their zakat at different locations. You'll meet them at one single location. And also, so this will be easy for everyone. The zakat givers who are going to go there anyway to water their camels. Now, then we also collect them, wal-mawarid, all these places where the animals will gather, wa-fi-l-Dawr, and also in the locations, individual farms of the people. If they have to go to the individual farms and you go there, they are not the ones to come to you as zakat collector. So that's what I say. You either go to where you know all of them will gather. If you don't do that, then you go to their individual locations. لِأَلَّا يَشُقُ السَّعْيُ عَلَى أَصْحَابِ الْأَمْوَالِ. So that it won't be a burden that the zakat collectors will place on the zakat givers by asking them to come to him instead. So, لِحَدِيث Amr ibn Shu'ayb an Abihi, because of the hadith of Amr ibn Shu'ayb from his father, and Jiddihi, from his grandfather. He said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, تؤخذ الصدقات المسلمين على ميائهم. The sadaqah, the zakah of the Muslims, are to be collected at their watering places. وَلَفْظُ أَبِي دَاوُدْ وَلَا جَلْبُ. So jalb is that the people, the owners of the zakat givers, should not be caused to go to the zakat institution. herd their animals, to go. And also, walajan, the zakat givers themselves should not stay in a place that is, the extreme, of the place, which will be a burden to the zakat collectors. So as it says here, walajan la yujannib ashabuha, ay la yakuna rajul bi aqsa mawadi ashab as-sadaqa fa tujannib ilayhi. I think someone's mic is on. Okay. walajan tukhal sadaqa اوكي لا يجنب اصحابها اي لا يكون الرجل باقصى مواضع اصحاب الصدقه فتجنب اليه ولكن تؤخذ في مواضعه. So the one who collects zakah should also not be at an extreme. Likewise, the person who is going to give zakah should also not be at an extreme, making it difficult in both cases to collect the zakah. And also the hadith says, وَلَا تُؤْخَذَ الصَّدَقَاتِ إِلَّا فِي دَوْرِهِمْ. You don't take the zakah except at their location. So either that location is where they house their animals or at their watering places, something that will make it easy in short. Number 12, لا يشتري المسلم صدقته. A Muslim should not buy back a sadaqah. For instance, you give gold out in sadaqah, and the zakat institution perhaps gives it to a fakir, and you now see that fakir selling it. You are able to identify that that is the gold that you gave in sadaqah. That fakir is now selling it. Don't buy it. That is what the Sharia says. It's like you give Allah something. When you give zakah, you're doing it fi-sabilillah. You're giving it to Allah, not the zakat institution per se. They are just people who are holding it in trust for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you give it to them and they give it to the recipients. So this thing that you're giving to Allah in exchange for reward from Allah, you now find it somewhere and you want to buy it back. What you've given to Allah, you want to buy it back. So should Allah also, take back his reward? So this is why one should not buy it. Either wajada, if you find it to buy, being sold, don't buy it. The hadith Abdullah ibn Umar, because of hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, Ana Umar ibn al-Khattab, that his father Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, hammala ala faras, he donated a horse to somebody for that person to use in jihad. He donated it to him as a person. Not that he said this is a waqf. If he said this is a waqf, that this is a waqf for the Muslims to use as jihad, then that person is not his personal property. He can't sell it. He can only use it for what you've said is. So, but he gave it to the person. He donated it, so it's the person's property. But with the intention that that person will use it for jihad. Fi sabilillah. Now, فَوَجَدَهُ يُبَاعُ. Then he saw that same animal being sold. فَأَرَادَ أَنْ يَبْتَعَهُ. Then he, decided, he intended to buy it back. فَسَأَلَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. He asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ذلك, about that, about his intention of buying it back. فَقَالَ لَا تَبْتَعْهُ. Don't buy it. وَلَا تَعُودْ فِي صَدَقَتِكَ. Don't return. Don't cause your sadaqah to be returned to you. Don't get back the sadaqah that you're given. So the same applies not only to zakah, but all types of sadaqah that one gives. You give somebody a particular type of sadaqah, you don't, buy it back. The exceptions that the scholars give is that if you buy it back in order to give it back as sadaqah again, you intended it to be used for jihad, then this particular hadith, it was reported that the person did not feed the horse well. So the horse became emaciated and could not, be used in jihad. So the man decided to sell it off. He didn't have the means to feed the animal, so he decided to sell it off. So in this case, if you buy it not for yourself, but you buy it maybe to feed it back, to nourish it back, and give it again as sadaqah, then this is sadaqah upon sadaqah. That will be, permissible. That will be permissible. Now, so let's go to the next point that a great Sheikh mentioned. He said, "Du'a al-musaddiq li ahli sadaqa inda daf'ihim az-zakat." The musaddiq, the zakat collector, should also pray for the zakat givers when he collects zakat from them. Li hadith Abdullah ibn Ubay al-Awfa, ibn Abi Awfa, because of the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abi Awfa. قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا أتاه قوم بصدقتهم قال, said the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, whenever people will come to him to give him their sadaqah, he will say to them, Allahumma salli alayhim. Say, Allah, pour salat upon them. So again, here is evidence that you can say sallallahu alayhi wasallam to other than the prophets. Now, so Allah say, the Prophet said, Allahumma salli alayhi. Fa'atahu abi. So my father came to him, Abu Awfa. My father, Abu Awfa, came to him bi sadaqatih, with his zakah. Faqal. And the Prophet said, Allahumma salli ala ali Abi Awfa. Oh Allah, pour salat upon the family of Abu Awfa. So not only did he pray for Abu Awfa, but he prayed for the entire family of Abu Awfa. Aw yaqul Allahumma barik fihi wa fi malihi. Or he will say, oh Allah, put barakah in him and in his wealth. Wa li hadith Wa'il ibn Hujra radiyallahu anhu, and also the hadith of the companion Wa'il ibn Hujra, who said, Anna rajulan ja'a bi naqatin hasana. فقال له النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم بارك فيه وفي إبله. This was the man who brought an emaciated animal, and the Prophet ﷺ said Allah should not put barakah in him and his wealth. Then he went to bring a good one. Then the Prophet ﷺ, prayed for him that Allah should put barakah in him and in his camel. Number 14, related to zakat on livestock. إذا ملك نصابا صغارا انعقد عليه الحول من حين ملكه لأن السخال تعد مع غيرها فتعد منفردة كالأمهات. Said if somebody owns animals that are younger than the age that we talked about, Jada'a, 6 months minimum for sheep, and Thani, 1 year minimum for goats. If somebody owns animals that are younger than that, all of them, and their number reaches the nisab for whatever category, not only for sheep, whether for camels also, they are younger than, bint al-makhab for camels. They are younger than tabi'a or tabi'a for cattle. These animals, and they reach the number. They reach 5 for camels. They reach 30 for cattle. They reach 40 for sheep. He said there is zakat to be paid on them. Why? Because these younger ones, remember in the hadith of Umar bin al-Khattab to his zakat collectors, Na'ud alayhim bi-sakhla. يروح بها الراعي. We will count the sakal to determine if the animals have reached the nisab or not. So if you have 20 old animals and you have 20 old goats and you have 20 young newly delivered goats, you add them together. They make 40. They make 40, and that means they've reached the nisab. Zakah is to be paid on them. So if these animals are good enough to add to the numbers, then they are good enough on their own. That's what the Sheikh is saying. So if you have, let's say you have a stock of 40 sheep, and each one of them gives birth to a sheep, making 80. Then a disease comes and it takes the mothers, the older animals, it takes them. They all die off, leaving 40. Are you to pay zakah or not? You have to pay zakah because you have sheep that are up to the number of sheep to pay zakat on. Now, إذا كان أمهات بلغت نصابا وإن كانت أمهات لم تبلغ. Sorry, now okay, we're talking about this now. لأن السخال تعاد مع غيرها فتعاد منفردة الأمهات ومثل ذلك اشترى رجل. So we give an example. We don't need to go through this example. Let's go to the next point. Number 15. نتائج الصائمة من بهيمة الأنعام حولها حول أمهاتها. We talked about this, that when you're talking about the offsprings of any particular type of wealth, in this case animals, or in another case money, if your money breeds profits, that profit is to be added to the capital to determine what you pay in zakah once the totality is at or above the nisab. The same thing for your animals. Once the animals give birth, the young of those animals is to be added to the old stock to determine if they will reach the nisab and what will be paid in zakah. If you have old stock that have not reached the number, that have not reached the nisab, then when they give birth, then and the number of new offsprings, when you add it to the old stock, you reach the nisab or you surpass the nisab. Then you start counting your howl at that time, the 1 year, 1 lunar calendar to pay zakah. If the old stock on themselves or by themselves have reached the nisab, then when the new offsprings come in, you add it to determine how much you will now pay in zakah. For instance, if you had 120 old stock, you have to pay 1 sheep. But if before the day of payment they give birth, then you have to add, let's say they now have 10 new stock and 10 new offsprings. Then you add that to the old stock, it becomes 130. Then you know you are going to pay, what do you call it? You're going to pay 2 sheep. You're going to pay 2 sheep. You won't say that they are new and you are going to start counting their own howl. No, you only count their own howl separately if you bought these new young ones from outside. They were not given birth to by the animals that you already had in stock. The same thing with your money. If you had money and you gain profit from it, a day before the zakat collector comes, it will be added to the old money, to the capital. But if you got it from another source, maybe salary, for instance, then you start counting its own howl separately. If the old money you had, had reached or surpassed the nisab, and you got a new amount of money, maybe a salary, you start counting the howl at that point that you got it for that second revenue stream. Why? You won't say that, oh, let that second revenue stream reach the nisab. You already have the nisab for that category of wealth. So you don't need another nisab. You already checked that box for that type of wealth, which is fiat money, of reaching the nisab. So when new one comes in, you start counting its own howl because you have already reached the nisab. But if you have money that has not reached the nisab, and new money comes in and you add to it, and it reaches the nisab after adding it, then you start counting your howl from that point. So the same thing as you do for fiat money, you also do for animals. Is there something we left out? Let's see. Number 15. No, it's not. We didn't leave it out. Now, number 16. كل جنس من الإبل والبقر والغنم ينقسم إلى نوعين. He said every type of animal, whether it's camel, cattle, or sheep that we're to pay zakat on, they're in two types. The long and short of this is that, or let's look at them as species. Camels have species, cattle have species. Likewise, sheep have species and types. So you have goats, under sheep, or under sha, you have sheep and goats. Sheep also have different species. Goats have different species, but they are all sha. So once they are under the same heading that zakat has been applied to, nisab has been set for, then you count them as the same. So if you have goats and sheep in your farm, you can add them together. If you have camels and llamas in your farm, you can count them together. If you have buffaloes and cows and oxen in your farm, you can add them together. They are all of the same genre. They're all of the same genre. There's different opinion among the scholars about it. Some will say you count the different ones together, but there's no text for that. What the text say is Ghanam, it says for Shah, it says for Ibl, which is camel, it says for Baqarah, which is cattle family. So anything that qualifies as a camel family, you count together. Anything that qualifies as cattle family, you count together. Anything that qualifies as Shah family, you count together. Now, so that is the long and short of this. فَالْإِبْلِ نَوْعًا الْعَرَبِ وَهِيَ الْإِبْلِ عَرَبِيَّةٌ وَهِيَ ذَاتُ السَّنَامِ وَاحِدٌ. The camels, they say two types, from what they are, that is the large camels without the llamas and other types like cameloids. So it said the Arab types which have one hump, while Bukhati, Jam'ul Bakhti, this should be it says Bakhita, but it should be Bukhti. Bukhti. Bakhati is the plural of Bukhti. Wahiya Ibli al-Ajab wa Tarb Wahiya Data Salamain. The second type of camel is, the singular is called Bukhti, the plural is called Bakhati, and it has two humps. It is a non-Arab camel. It's also a Turkish. It's also found in Turkey and other parts of Asia. They have two humps. So Wahiya Data Salamain. Wa Baqara Naw'in. The cattle also have two types. Al-Baqar al-Mu'tad, the regular camels we find around Wal-Jawamis and buffaloes. But they are more than that. As we said, in the cameloids, you have other cameloids, and cattle family also have others. But Wal-Ghanam Naw'in al-Dha'n, wa hiya Dhat al-Suf, the Shah, the Ghanam, they have two types. The ones that grow wool, they're called the Dha'n, and Ma'az, goats, wa hiya Dhat al-Sha'r, وهي ذات الشعر, and those are the ones that grow hair. فيقال للذكر والأنثى من الضأن والمعز شعر. So this is the point we were saying before. The Sheikh here says that the for goats and and dha'n, for Ma'az and Dan, they are called Shah, whether they are masculine or feminine. And this is what the text of the hadith says, Shah. So whether they are male or female, you can pay any one of them in zakah. Allahu a'lam. Wal-maqadir al-wajiba fi zakah as-sabiqa tashmilu min kulli jins. So he said the zakah covers all these types that we talked about. Once it's cameloid, it covers it. You can join them together. Once it's cattle family, you join them together. Once it's sheep family, you join them together. وَيُضَمْ أَحَدُهُمَا لِلْآخَرِ فِي تَكْمِيلِ النِّصَابِ إِجْمَاعًا. So there's ijma with respect to you joining them. But Allahu a'lam, one can't say there's ijma because there are scholars who say if you have Arab camels that have one hump, you have to separate them and pay zakat on them separately. And you have non-Arab camels that have two humps, you have to separate them and pay zakat on them separately. But the more correct opinion, Allahu a'lam, is that they are from the same family, and the text of the hadith on them does not differentiate. Now, we'll end, let me see. Let us end here. The next point talks about khilta fi bahimatul an'am, shareholding in bahimatul an'am. We have previously said that if people own any type of wealth apart from bahimatul an'am, apart from the livestock, camels, cattle, and sheep, if people have joint ownership in other types of wealth, and when we split this joint ownership, the share of each of them does not reach the nisab, or the share of one of them does not reach the nisab, then the one whose wealth does not reach the nisab has no zakat to pay. So that is for all wealth. However, for bahimatul an'am, khilta, shareholding, has an impact if certain conditions are met. So inshallah, that is what we'll take next week, and that should conclude our class on bahimatul an'am, and we go to another wealth, al-kharij min al-ard, things that are gotten from the earth, in terms of farm produce, rikaz, and ores, ma'adin, inshallah. So next week, we'll take this and all of the topics that conclude, inshallah, the topic of bahimatul an'am, and then we'll go to other topics subsequently. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullah khair. Now, so subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.